Hey, I want to welcome you back to another week. Before we get started on football, which is not nearly as important as Thanksgiving, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you get to be with your families. I hope God has blessed you this year and you have many things to be thankful for. We certainly do, and we're excited about our 75th game. And the plea is, let's fill this place up. Let's get two good teams. Let's bring everybody from Jacksonville. We have a great 75th package. You get 4 tickets and a parking pass for $75 for our 75th year. So our job is to get you two good teams. Our job is to put together a great number of events that you would enjoy. And on a Thursday night, prime time, nobody's playing on that night against us. The world will be watching Jacksonville. Let's fill the place up. All right, so let's get started. CFP comes out tonight, which that means it's Tuesday. I'm not sure when you'll get this. But here is what the CFP did last weekend. And if you look at this, you have a team in Oregon lose, and you had Penn State lose. So the real question is, who's going to make the Final Four? Well, right now you have to say that none of these teams will change until the SEC championship game. Obviously, Georgia and LSU, one of those teams are going to lose and fall down. So then who's the next team that has a chance to move in and replace the loser of the SEC championship game? And you start looking, Oregon's lost, Oregon probably falls out. Utah won, Utah moves up. Penn State with 2 losses is probably out of it. Oklahoma and Minnesota and Florida and Wisconsin are still kind of in the mix. I believe that what's going to happen is you're going to look at the Minnesota-Wisconsin winner, Florida, Oklahoma, and Utah will all move up in the poll, and they'll be sitting in that spot waiting for the loser of the loser of the Georgia LSU game to fall out. So that's the way the CFP is going. It matters to us because the question is how many SEC teams get put up into the CFP. And I'm not talking about the Final Four now. I'm talking about all 12 teams in the 6 games that make up the CFP. So when we look at the SEC board, we go Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, maybe Missouri, LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Texas A&M, and maybe Mississippi State can all get bowl eligible. Well, if they put 4 in the CFP, let's just take Florida and Georgia off the board, LSU and Alabama off the board. So this is what this looks like. You go here and here, you take this one off, and you take this one off. So now that's what you have left in the SEC. Obviously, you can take Arkansas off. They're not going to get bowl eligible. Ole Miss is not going to get bowl eligible. Vanderbilt's not going to get bowl eligible. And South Carolina's not going to get bowl eligible. So really, that's what's left in the SEC that are bowl eligible teams. Tennessee, we believe Tennessee will finish 7-5 by beating Vanderbilt. Kentucky, we believe they beat Louisville and finish 7-5. Missouri beats Arkansas and finishes 6-6. Auburn loses this weekend, 8-4. Texas A&M is 7-5. And I don't know about this one, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams for 6 bowl games. So somebody's not going to get a bowl game, an SEC team in their bowl game. We're fine. We're in good shape. I think we'll be okay. We would love to look at Tennessee and Kentucky. Obviously, we've had Texas A&M. We've had Mississippi State. We would love to have Auburn. So we've got a group of teams here that we'd really like to have. Now, if they only get 3 up, then let's put Florida back in here. Okay? So that means that Florida is now available to the pool of teams down here. So I believe if Florida's available, the Citrus Bowl will take Florida. I think that's a slam dunk. That would leave Auburn, Tennessee, Kentucky, and that would be it for us. One of those 3 teams, Missouri, one of those 4 teams could be available to play in our bowl game. So we're excited about that. We think we look okay in the SEC, and obviously Tennessee's won 5 out of their last 6 games. There's a lot of good teams that are winning games. Kentucky's doing the same thing. Again, I would take Texas A&M off the board for us because we had them last year. So there you have it. That's what we're looking at. That's what we think we'll get to. Mississippi State would come off. We've had them a number of times, so there's your board. That's the SEC selection. We could do the same thing over here. I'm not going to be quite as long as the ACC. As we know, we've been saying we want to go Big Ten this year. But watch out right here. What happens if Florida State upsets Florida? Now, most people are going to say, well, that's not going to happen in the Swamp. But it could very well happen. And if it does happen, all of a sudden you got a Florida State team that's getting hot at the end of the season. They're going to finish 7-5. We would love to look at a 7-5 Florida State team on this side of the equation. We're also watching very closely Virginia Tech. The winner of that game will represent that division in the ACC championship game, and unfortunately have to go play Clemson in that. But you get a 9-3 or a 9-3, they go play the championship game, they're probably 9-4. Either one of these two teams would be a great mix for us. Unfortunately, this past weekend, Miami messed up. They lost to FIU. That's probably eliminated Miami off of our list. We'll keep them there because we want to watch that as it goes. But the serious part of it is, let's talk now about this, what we believe is going to happen in the Big Ten. Well, we believe that Ohio State's not going to be available for us. We believe Penn State's not going to be available for us. You can come down here and they're not going to get bowl eligible. They're not going to get bowl eligible. Nebraska's got a shot at getting bowl eligible. Purdue is not going to get bowl eligible, and Northwestern's not going to get bowl eligible. So 2 teams up, easy to say. Then you got Michigan, Indiana, Michigan State. If they win this weekend, we believe they will, bowl eligible. Minnesota and Wisconsin. That's the big game this weekend in that conference. The winner gets to win the Western Division and go play, unfortunately for them, Ohio State. But that gives us one of these 3 teams, and actually Nebraska, if we can get them bowl eligible, we now have a mix of teams that go to these bowl games down here that really looks good. And some of these teams, like Michigan, can't go to some of these bowl games because they've already played in them. So we've got a really good shot at a Wisconsin, a Minnesota, a Michigan, one of those teams in that mix, and we'd be really happy. Last thing I want to show you is my projections on what happens in the CFP. You know, we talk about the Final Four, but really, in our business, we have to pay attention to what happens in the CFP. That's all 12 teams and 6 bowl games. So the bowl games are the Fiesta Bowl, which is a semifinal game. The Peach Bowl is a semifinal game. The Orange Bowl has a contract with the ACC and it's open on the other side. The Cotton Bowl has the group of 5 and they're open. The Sugar Bowl has the SEC versus the Big 12, and the Rose Bowl has the Big 10 versus the Pac-12. My Final Four right now, Oklahoma, Clemson, Ohio State, LSU. I think Oklahoma wins twice. They beat Baylor again. They win out. They're a team that would, at that point, be 12-1. I think Oklahoma is the team that gets in. Now, if Baylor were to beat Oklahoma twice, then you could put Baylor in this slot. Utah's sitting there waiting, hoping to get there. They could win out and they could be there. But right now, I think you almost have a lock on Ohio State and Clemson out of their conference. I think LSU and Georgia will be a great game. I give the nod to LSU. Then you go ACC versus Georgia, and I think Georgia gets in that slot. And then the group of 5, Alabama down here with some of these teams, and that's the slot that Florida could get into. If Florida doesn't get there and another team gets there, and let's just say that's Utah, then Florida's available down there, and all of a sudden our picture in the SEC looks really, really good. So that's the way the board shakes out this week. Again, we've still got another weekend of football in the regular season, and then of course we have the championship games, which could change everything. And by the way, the last 2 years, going into the championship game day, we thought we had our team. After the championship game, that Sunday morning, we had a new team in our bowl. So it's really interesting, it really works. This is the fun part of it. 2 weeks, we'll have an announcement on that Sunday, probably around 3:30 or 4 o'clock. We're going to announce it here in the stadium while the Jaguars are playing the game, and we're really excited about our opportunities. Again, have a great Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you next week.